You come home from work one day and it's just been a bad day. The kind where you don't feel like talking to anyone. Not on the drive home, not even once you're actually inside. But before you've said a single word, you catch one look from your dog. And somehow he already knows. And that makes you wonder, how does he know? Why does that hit as hard as it does? Watch a dog on a busy street sometime, not your dog, a stranger's, and you'll see the same thing. It'll greet someone it's never met and will probably never see again, like they're the best thing that's ever happened to it. No treat coming, no idea who this person even is. That kind of joy doesn't need a reason. It isn't performance, it's just who they are. And it doesn't change depending on what kind of day you're having either. Best day of your life or the actual worst, the dog treats you exactly the same. No judgment, no memory of whatever you snapped about yesterday. We think of dogs as innocent, almost the way we think of kids as innocent. And not because they can't act out, they can, and a dog that's been mishandled or scared badly enough can become something very different. It's more that on a good day, with a good dog, there's no agenda behind any of it. Nothing you have to earn. Just presence. And that's not nothing. Try finding that anywhere else in your life. That feeling isn't new, by the way, and it's definitely not an accident. In 2022, a team led by Professor Conchi de la Rua at the University of the Basque country pulled a single bone, a humerus, out of a cave called Errala in northern Spain. Carbon dating put it at roughly 17,000 years old, and genetically it wasn't a wolf, it was a dog. That's older than farming, older than pottery, older than pretty much anything we think of as the beginning of civilization. And here's what nobody really explains about it. Nobody set out to make it happen. Wolves started hovering at the edges of human camps, drawn in by scraps nobody wanted, and it was the bold ones, the curious ones, the ones who could stomach being near people without panicking, who stuck around. The nervous, aggressive ones stayed away and stayed hungry, while the calmer ones got fed. Generation after generation, that alone was enough to reshape them. Smaller, calmer, more social, even better at digesting the same starchy food humans were already eating. So humans didn't sit down one day and decide to invent the dog. Dogs domesticated themselves. It was only much later that humans started breeding them on purpose, for guarding, herding, hunting, and by then, the dog had already chosen us. If the story stopped there, that'd already be strange enough. But it gets stranger. Somewhere in those thousands of years, dogs evolved something wolves flat out don't have. A tiny muscle above the eye that lets them raise their inner eyebrows and make their eyes look bigger, rounder, younger, more like a human baby's. In 2019, researchers at the University of Portsmouth, led by Dr. Julian Kaminski, mapped it out and gave it a name, a U101. Dogs and wolves split apart only around 33,000 years ago, which, evolutionarily, is nothing, and somehow in that window, dogs alone grew a muscle built to do one very specific thing, make humans want to take care of them. That's not an accident. That's a tool, and yeah, it worked on you too. Here's where it gets genuinely wild, though. When you actually lock eyes with your dog, something happens in both of your brains at the same time. You both release oxytocin, the same hormone that floods a mother's brain, and a newborn's brain during bonding. In 2015, a team of Japanese researchers led by Miho Nagasawa measured it directly and found the loop only worked between dogs and their own humans. Hand-raised wolves, staring at the people who raised them, showed nothing. No spike at all, so you're not imagining the connection. It's chemical, it's real, it's measurable, and it runs both ways. The same wiring that makes you fall for your own kid lights up when you look at your dog, which might explain something else too, and that's why the dog you had as a kid feels different from every dog since. In 2017, a researcher at the University of Cambridge named Matt Cassels studied 77 families with 12-year-olds and found something that probably won't surprise you, but is still wild to have proven. Kids told their pets just as much as they told their siblings, sometimes even more, with less conflict and less judgment. A dog never repeats what you told it. It never brings it up later, never uses it against you 2 years down the line. And for a lot of us growing up, that made the dog the safest relationship in the house. Not because it understood the words, but because it never needed to. Okay? Here's the part people don't like admitting out loud. A lot of us have cried harder at a dog dying in a movie than at a human character dying in that same movie. Say that out loud at a party, and watch people either laugh nervously or go quiet, because they know it's true of them too. It's not that human life matters less, it's that a human character comes loaded with motives, backstory, things they might deserve or not deserve, and a dog comes with none of that. No hidden agenda, nothing to untangle. So when the story puts a dog in pain, your brain doesn't have 15 things to sort through first. It just reacts purely without all that in the way. Which brings us to the part almost nobody talks about. We didn't just shape dogs over these last 15 to 17,000 years, they shaped us right back. Living alongside them made humans measurably better at reading faces, better at picking up on things nobody says out loud, better at taking care of something that can't ask for help in words, and it still shows up in the most ordinary ways. The dog that gets you out of bed and outside on a day you had no intention of moving. The dog that's already leaning against you before you've said anything is wrong. We built them to need us, and somewhere along the way, we built ourselves to need them right back. Maybe that's the real reason any of this hits as hard as it does. Your dog has never seen the version of you that you're embarrassed by, the one that snapped at someone, or froze, or didn't show up the way you wanted to. It only ever sees the one that walks through the door and gets greeted like a miracle, and somehow being looked at that way enough times makes you want to actually become the person your dog already seems to think you are. You didn't exactly choose to love your dog, and if you're honest, you're not sure you had a say in it at all. Your dog didn't choose you either, not really, any more than that first wolf chose to sit a little closer to the fire 17,000 years ago. You just found each other, the same way it's been happening for longer than anyone can actually prove.